The annual intelligence challenge at the Galactic Academy was more than a mere assessment. It was a celebrated event, a tradition that highlighted the brightest beings from across the cosmos. For generations, participants from diverse alien races had vied to demonstrate their intellectual dominance. This year marked a first. Humans were invited to take part. After lengthy debates, the Academy's governing body had questioned whether humans, typically noted for their versatility rather than sheer brainpower, could withstand the stringent demands of the test. Driven by curiosity, they allowed Caroline White, an emissary from Earth, to compete among the universe's elite. As Caroline entered the resplendent hallways of the testing center, the sound of her footsteps echoed off the metallic surfaces. The structure was a testament to extraterrestrial architecture, with walls that emitted a soft glow from lights that pulsed rhythmically, as if alive. Overhead, crystal displays listed the names and home planets of the contenders, each name automatically translating into her thoughts through a neural implant received upon her arrival. Among the foreign and intricate names, Caroline White, Earth, appeared starkly simple. She sensed the gaze of countless curious onlookers. Alien scholars of various forms murmured quietly as she walked past. To them, she was a curiosity, a being from a notorious death world known for its severe and erratic natural conditions. Although humans were recognized for their tenacity, they were often regarded as less refined than species from more tranquil worlds. With her head held high, Caroline ignored the sotto voce conversations. Experience had taught her that the most effective response to doubt was to disprove it. The testing chamber was an immense, circular space with walls adorned with holographic displays of mathematical problems, celestial maps, and intricate puzzles. In the midst of the room, a large crystal column emitted a gentle blue glow, its hum synchronizing with the surrounding ambience. Participants were positioned in pods that formed concentric circles around the column, each designed to suit different biological requirements. Some featured touch-sensitive surfaces for beings with physical extremities, while others offered holographic projections for species that communicated via visual or auditory signals. Caroline's station, placed along the periphery, featured a straightforward chair and desk setup that seemed almost rudimentary in comparison. She touched the desk, which responded by lighting up and displaying a welcoming message along with her name. Mixed feelings of eagerness and nervousness surged within her. This was her moment to demonstrate the capabilities of humanity. As the contenders took their places, the authoritative voice of the overseer filled the chamber. This figure, an imposing entity with semi-transparent skin that softly illuminated the intricate circulatory and neural structures beneath, began the proceedings. In the flickering red light, Caroline's instincts kicked in. She realized that relying on the Academy systems was no longer an option, and direct action was needed. She stood up from her pod, surveying the room with a determined gaze. Her upbringing on Earth, a planet renowned for its harsh, ever-changing conditions, had equipped her with a resilience and resourcefulness that her alien peers lacked. "Listen," Caroline called out, her voice carrying across the chamber. "We might be isolated, but we're not helpless. Let's focus on what we can control. I need anyone who can manually override their pod's emergency system to try and reconnect us, or at least get some lights on." A few heads turned in her direction, their expressions varying from skeptical to intrigued. The insectoid creature, its mandibles clicking in agitation, hesitated before responding. "Human, what do you propose we do?" Caroline quickly formulated a plan. "I think the pillar's malfunction may be central to our issues. It's possible that it's not just a power failure, but a systemic disruption. If we can access the maintenance panel, we might be able to reset the system manually." The gelatinous being, still manipulating its pod locks, paused and then pulsed with a glow that indicated agreement. "I possess knowledge of electrical systems," it chimed. "But how will we access the panel? Our pods are locked." "We break out," Caroline said simply. She moved to the nearest pod, inspecting the locking mechanism. It was sturdy, but not designed to withstand concerted physical effort from inside. "These pods are meant to keep distractions out, not to keep us in. If we work together, we can open them." Motivated by Caroline's confidence, several students began to work on their pods. They applied pressure, pried at edges, and used their unique abilities to manipulate the locks. Slowly, one by one, the pods opened. As more students freed themselves, they gathered around the central pillar. The flickering light from the emergency systems cast long shadows, creating an eerie, pulsating rhythm that matched the growing sense of urgency in the room. The alien with knowledge of electrical systems approached the pillar, its appendages flickering through the air as it searched for the maintenance panel. "Here," it announced, its voice resonating with a soft, bell-like quality. A panel on the side of the pillar slid open with a hiss, revealing a complex network of circuits and energy conduits. Caroline peered over the alien's shoulder as it began to work, its appendages moving with precise, fluid motions. "Tell me what to do," she urged. "Stabilize this conduit while I reset the grid," it instructed, pointing to a pulsating tube that glowed with internal energy. Caroline held the conduit steady, feeling the raw power coursing through the device. The room remained tense, the red lights casting everyone in a surreal glow. Finally, with a swift movement, the alien completed its adjustments and pressed a large, central button. The room held its breath. After a moment, the hum of machinery filled the air, and the lights slowly returned to normal. The crystal pillar lit up once again, its blue light steady and calming. Cheers erupted around the room as systems rebooted and pods reactivated. Caroline smiled, proud of her role in resolving the crisis. The overseer's voice returned to their minds, this time with a note of admiration. "Well done, participants. Today, you faced an unexpected test, one not of intellect, but of resilience and cooperation. It seems our newest member, from Earth, has taught us all a valuable lesson." Caroline's heart swelled with pride. Not only had she proven herself capable, but she had also shown that human adaptability and ingenuity were as valuable as the raw intelligence celebrated at the Academy. Her peers looked at her with newfound respect, and she knew that this incident would change the perception of humans at the Galactic Academy forever. Amidst the mounting panic, Caroline remained a solitary figure of calm. Her background on Earth, a world known for its relentless unpredictability, had inured her to crises. She recognized that the diverse species surrounding her, despite their advanced intellects and technologies, were not accustomed to handling the unexpected. Their societies and systems, refined to perfection, rarely faced disruptions, leaving them ill-equipped to deal with such irregularities. She turned her attention back to her sketch, refining her ideas with quick, precise strokes of the pen. As she did so, she spoke aloud, addressing the room with a confidence that belied her alien surroundings. "Our different worlds have prepared us differently. Where you see disorder and chaos, I see a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to be met." The room gradually quieted, the alien students turning to watch as Caroline methodically marked potential access points to the maintenance hatch she suspected might hold the key to their current dilemma. Her fingers traced lines connecting the emergency lighting, pods, and the central pillar, forming a map of the system's possible architecture. "Look," Caroline said, holding up her notebook for the nearest students to see. "I believe the maintenance hatch is here, directly below the pillar. It might give us access to the control systems." Skepticism was evident in the eyes of many, but as the moments ticked by with no sign of resolution from the overseer or the Academy's automated systems, a reluctant consensus emerged. The insectoid cigar, previously dismissive, now clicked its mandibles less aggressively. "Show us what you propose, human." With a nod, Caroline led a small group of the most physically capable aliens to the spot she had identified. The hatch was cleverly concealed beneath the floor tiles, requiring a collective effort to uncover. Working together, they removed the heavy panel, revealing a narrow access way filled with glowing conduits and pulsating data streams. Caroline, having studied various engineering principles back on Earth, recognized the setup. These are the primary conduits that feed power and data to the pillar. If we reset them, we might reboot the entire system. The gelatinous locker, its body capable of squeezing into tight spaces, offered to descend into the hatch. "I can reach the controls. Direct me." Guided by Caroline's steady instructions, Locker manipulated the conduits, his actions visible to the group above through the translucent shell of his body. There was a tense pause, then a deep, reverberating thud echoed through the chamber as the systems began to reset. The emergency red lights waned, replaced by the normal white lighting of the Academy's exam hall. The crystal pillar, central to the room's function, flickered back to life, its steady glow restoring a semblance of normalcy. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. The overseer's voice finally returned, not just in their minds, but over the public address system. Test resumed. "Thank you for your patience." Caroline's peers peers, now looking at her with a mixture of respect and awe, returned to their pods. The Aven alien, Car, fluttered his wings lightly as he passed her. Perhaps there is more to humanity's adaptability than we thought. As Caroline settled back into her pod, ready to continue with the exam, she couldn't help but smile, satisfied not just with solving the technical issue, but with having demonstrated the unique strengths that her human heritage brought to the galaxy's vast tableau of species. This incident, she knew, would not be quickly forgotten. It had shown that in a universe of advanced intellects and technologies, the human capacity for handling chaos could be just as valuable. I need to understand its architecture. If we can figure out what's gone wrong internally, maybe we can bypass the malfunction or even reset it, Caroline explained as she examined the intricate carvings on the pillar. She traced her fingers over the patterns, feeling for irregularities or hidden compartments. Caver watched, his bright eyes reflecting a cautious admiration. "You seem different from what I expected of a human," he remarked, his voice softening. "Earth teaches us to adapt. When things break down, we learn to fix them, or we find another way around," Caroline responded, her attention still on the pillar. Her fingers stopped over a segment that felt slightly different. She pressed down, and with a soft click, a small panel slid open, revealing a series of buttons and levers. Excited by her discovery, Caroline motioned for Caver to come closer. "Look, this could be some sort of manual override. Help me figure out what each of these controls does." Together, they began experimenting with the different mechanisms. Each lever pulled or button pressed seemed to have no effect, until Caroline twisted a dial that emitted a low, harmonic tone. The sound vibrated through the room, and the faint blue glow of the pillar flickered briefly. "That's it. It's responding," Caroline exclaimed, her face lighting up with the realization that they might be on the verge of restoring the system. As they worked, Derek and the others noticed the change in the pillar's glow and gradually stopped their heated discussions. One by one, they approached, drawn by the prospect of a solution. Even Derek, his pride bruised by his earlier failure, joined the group, watching Caroline's efforts with a begrudging respect. With several species now gathered around, Caroline used this opportunity to direct their combined expertise. "We need to stabilize the energy flow. If you have experience with power systems, now's the time to step up," she urged. An Ixian student, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. Known for their expertise in energy manipulation, the Ixian placed its hands on the pillar, its eyes closing as it concentrated. The glow steadied, becoming brighter with each passing second. Caroline continued adjusting the controls based on the Ixian's feedback, who communicated subtle changes in the energy's flow through slight hand movements. The collaborative effort had a calming effect on the room. The crisis had unified them in a shared goal, turning a group of panicked students into a focused, problem-solving team. Finally, with a synchronized turn of a final lever by Caroline and a decisive energy modulation by the Ixian, the pillar surged with light, restoring power to the entire room. The holographic displays flickered back to life, and the neural connection with the Overseer was reestablished. The Overseer's voice filled their minds once again, this time with a tone of deep relief and gratitude. "Well done, students. You have not only passed an unexpected test of your technical abilities, but also demonstrated remarkable teamwork and leadership under pressure." The room erupted into cheers and applause, the students turning to Caroline with expressions of gratitude. Even Derek offered a nod of acknowledgement, his earlier hostility replaced by respect. Caroline smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment not just for fixing the pillar, but for showing her peers from across the galaxy the strength and adaptability of humanity. She had not only repaired the physical connections within the academy, but had also built new ones among her fellow students, proving that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected sources. Caroline set to work with a focus that drew a quiet circle of observers around her. She gently separated the wires, tracing each one with her fingertips to understand their routing. The conduits shimmered under the ambient light, each pulse seeming to signify the lifeblood of the system. As she worked, Caroline explained her thought process aloud, ensuring the others could follow and learn from her method. Each of these conduits is paired with a corresponding receptor. If we can ensure all connections are secure and unobstructed, we might restore the flow of power, she stated, pointing out a slightly dislodged connector. That could be the culprit. Walker, now intrigued rather than skeptical, moved closer. "Let me help," he offered, his form shifting to provide better lighting over the area Caroline was examining. His body acted like a living lamp, illuminating the panel's innards with a soft, even glow. "Thank you, Locker," Caroline said, giving him a nod of appreciation. Together, they carefully adjusted the connectors, pushing them into place with a satisfying click. Each click brought them closer to a solution, their teamwork bridging the gap between human ingenuity and alien technology. As Caroline tightened the last connector, she instructed Caver to monitor the pillar's response. "Watch the lights. If they stabilize, it means we've restored the main flow." Caver nodded, his eyes fixed on the pillar. The others held their breath, watching the glow of the conduits for any sign of change. After a moment, the lights on the pillar began to pulse more rhythmically, the erratic flickers smoothing into a consistent glow. "It's working," Caver exclaimed, a hint of surprise and relief in his voice. The room erupted into cheers and applause. The students, many of whom had doubted Caroline's abilities, now looked at her with respect and admiration. Even Zagar, previously critical, offered a grudging nod. "Well done, human," he said, his tone respectful. Caroline wiped her brow, a smile spreading across her face as she took in the restored calm of the room. "We did it together." This wasn't just about human ingenuity, it was about all of us working as a team. The overseer's voice, restored along with the system, filled the room. "Remarkable work, students. You have not only restored the systems, but have demonstrated exemplary collaboration and problem-solving under stress. This, too, will be considered in your evaluation." As the students dispersed back to their pods, ready to resume the exam, Caroline remained by the pillar a moment longer. She reflected on the journey from skepticism to acceptance she had navigated. This experience, she knew, was a profound lesson not just in engineering, but in leadership and unity. Earth may be considered a backwater by some, she mused to herself, but today, it taught the galaxy a lesson in what beings from any world can achieve when they come together. With the pillar now stable and the room calm, Caroline returned to her pod, ready to tackle the next challenge of the exam. But the real test had already been passed, the test of bringing disparate minds and abilities together towards a common goal. Her notebook and pen, simple tools from a simpler world, had helped guide a room full of the galaxy's brightest. As she settled in, Caroline knew that no matter the outcome of the exam, she had already won something much greater. "Let's keep an eye on the system for a bit longer to make sure it holds." Caroline stood up, brushing off her hands and checking the conduits once more to ensure they remained stable. Her focus had shifted from immediate repair to monitoring, making sure that her improvised solution would endure. As she stood vigil by the pillar, the other students began to gather around, their earlier apprehension replaced by a sense of collaborative curiosity. Zix, who had been critical of Caroline from the start, approached with a less combative demeanor. "I must admit, your method was unorthodox but effective," Zix said, his tone more respectful. "I'm curious about how you learned to handle such technologies." Caroline chuckled lightly. "Back on Earth, we often have to make do with what we have. It's not always about having the right tools, but knowing how to use them creatively. Plus, I've had some experience with similar systems during my internship at a tech repair shop." Her explanation seemed to resonate with many of the students, who nodded in understanding, even if the concept of making do was foreign to their technologically advanced cultures. Locker, whose form had stabilized into a more solid shape, slithered closer. "Could you teach us some of these techniques? It seems invaluable, especially in unexpected situations like this." "Sure, I'd be happy to share what I know," Caroline replied, pleased with the shift in their attitudes. The crisis had not only proven her abilities, but had also opened a pathway for greater exchange and understanding among the students. The overseer's voice, now clear and calm, returned to address the room. "Students, you have witnessed a remarkable display of crisis management and ingenuity. Caroline's actions will be recorded as an exemplary instance of problem-solving under pressure. We will also schedule a series of workshops on improvisational engineering, led by Caroline, to better prepare all of you for unforeseen challenges." A murmur of approval spread through the students. Caroline's heart swelled with pride, not just from solving the problem or gaining the respect of her peers, but from the opportunity to bridge the gap between her world and theirs. As the exam resumed and the students returned to their pods, Caroline's mind was already racing with ideas for the workshops. She knew that blending her Earth-based knowledge with the alien students' advanced understanding could lead to some fascinating collaborations. The crystal pillar's steady blue light served as a silent testament to her success, and as she returned to her pod, Caroline felt a renewed confidence in her place at the Galactic Academy. She had proven that she could hold her own among the stars, and perhaps more importantly, that she could bring them a little closer to Earth. "I understand your concern," Caroline addressed Sixer directly, her voice even but clear. "However, I assessed the situation thoroughly before acting. We were faced with a potential safety hazard, and waiting for an official response could have risked more than just this exam. It could have risked our lives." Her statement resonated with some of the students, nodding slightly, appreciating her proactive stance despite the breach of protocol. Others, like Sixer, remained visibly skeptical, their cultural biases against humans coloring their perception. The overseer observed the exchange silently for a moment, then returned his focus to Caroline. "While it is true that you acted against the rules, the Academy also recognizes the importance of initiative and resourcefulness, especially in unexpected and critical situations." The overseer's voice seemed to soften, just a shade, hinting at a depth of consideration beyond simple rule enforcement. "Therefore, your actions will not result in disciplinary measures. Instead, they will be reviewed as a case study for potential updates to our protocols." Relief washed over Caroline, visible in the slight relaxation of her shoulders. A murmur of surprise and mixed reactions rippled through the room as the overseer continued. "Moreover, this incident highlights the need for a more robust training module that includes crisis management and improvisational problem-solving skills, which you will help develop, given your demonstrated aptitude." Caroline's eyes widened slightly at the unexpected turn of events. From potential reprimand to being entrusted with helping to shape Academy policy, the outcome was more than she could have hoped for. Sixer, still disgruntled, clicked his mandibles in disapproval, but did not protest further. The overseer's decision seemed final, and his authority was not to be questioned. "As we integrate these experiences into our training," the overseer addressed the whole room now, "let it be a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge at the Galactic Academy is not just about following procedures, but also about understanding when to challenge them responsibly and effectively." The session concluded with the overseer's directive to resume normal activities. As the other students dispersed, several approached Caroline, offering quiet words of thanks or asking more about her methods. Even a few who had doubted her earlier expressed a newfound respect. Caroline felt a profound sense of accomplishment and connection. Her decision, made under pressure, had not only fixed the immediate problem, but had potentially improved future training for all Academy students. As she walked back to her pod, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and a deepening bond with her peers from across the stars. Her actions today might have stirred controversy, but they had also sparked a dialogue about adaptability and innovation in the face of the unknown, a dialogue that would resonate within the Academy's halls for a long time. The final challenge required the students to devise a plan for an emergency evacuation of an interstellar habitat facing a catastrophic system failure, a scenario eerily reminiscent of the day's earlier events. Caroline read the prompt and couldn't help but smile wryly. The test's uncanny relevance to their real-life crisis seemed almost too coincidental. As she began to outline her response, Caroline integrated the lessons learned from the actual emergency. She emphasized the importance of swift decision-making, the utility of unconventional solutions in critical moments, and the need for clear leadership and cooperation among diverse species. The room was quiet, save for the soft tapping of fingers on holographic interfaces and the occasional murmured consultation between neighboring students. The tension that had spiked during the crisis had transformed into a concentrated effort to tackle the theoretical problem in front of them. Caroline's solution proposed a tiered evacuation protocol that prioritized at-risk populations and utilized the unique abilities of different species to enhance the efficiency of the evacuation process. She suggested the implementation of a dynamic, adaptable command structure that could respond in real time to changing circumstances, a reflection of her own actions earlier. As the exam time dwindled, Caroline submitted her answers with a confident click. She leaned back in her pod, allowing herself a moment of relief. The stress of the emergency and the subsequent testing had been intense, but she felt that she had acquitted herself well. Finally, the overseer's voice filled the room again, signaling the end of the exam. "The testing period has concluded. Please remain in your pods while the results are processed." The students exchanged looks of exhaustion mixed with satisfaction. Despite the high stakes and the unexpected challenges, they had persevered. Caroline noticed even Zagar nodding an acknowledgement toward her, a silent concession of respect. After a tense wait, the overseer reappeared, his form glowing slightly in the dim light of the exam hall. Results have been tabulated. This year's cohort has demonstrated exceptional resilience and adaptability, qualities essential for the future leaders of the galactic community. He paused, and his gaze seemed to linger on Caroline. One student, in particular, has shown outstanding ingenuity and courage under pressure. Caroline, from Earth, your actions today have not only resolved a critical system failure, but have also provided valuable insights into improving our emergency protocols. The room erupted into applause, some students standing to clap. Caroline, overwhelmed by the sudden recognition, felt her cheeks warm with a mix of pride and embarrassment. The overseer continued, as part of your evaluation, this incident and your response will be recorded in the Academy's archives. Caroline, you are invited to join the Academy's Crisis Management Advisory Panel. The invitation was more than Caroline had hoped for. It wasn't just a validation of her actions, it was an acknowledgement that her perspective and skills were valuable to the Academy. She accepted graciously, aware that this role would allow her to influence future policy and perhaps ensure that the flexibility and resourcefulness she had demonstrated would become a staple of the Academy's training program. As the students filed out of the exam hall, many approached Caroline, asking questions and expressing their admiration. Caver clapped her on the shoulder, a broad smile on his face. I knew you had it in you, human, he said, using her species name not as a slight, but as a sign of respect. Caroline left the exam hall feeling a newfound sense of belonging and purpose. The events of the day had not only tested her capabilities, but had also expanded her role within the Galactic Academy, proving that sometimes the right kind of trouble could lead to remarkable opportunities. The results of today's examination have been evaluated, and it is clear that a remarkable collaboration has taken place here. The overseer began, his voice resonating throughout the atrium. Each of you brought your unique strengths to bear, demonstrating the power of diversity and teamwork. Caroline felt the eyes of her peers on her, some still tinged with skepticism, but many more with respect. The overseer continued, this year's cohort has not only met our expectations, you have exceeded them. Particularly noteworthy is the performance of Caroline White. A pause hung in the air as the overseer allowed his words to sink in. Caroline held her breath, waiting. Caroline has shown exceptional leadership, adaptability, and resourcefulness. Her actions in the face of unexpected challenges have inspired a new standard for how we approach problem-solving at the Galactic Academy. Around her, murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Caroline's cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and relief. She looked around at her fellow students, their faces reflecting a range of emotions, from admiration to envy. Furthermore, the overseer added, in recognition of her contributions and potential, Caroline will be awarded the Chancellor's Medal for Exceptional Merit. This honor is bestowed upon students who not only excel academically, but who also demonstrate qualities that embody the spirit of the Galactic Academy. Applause broke out, and Caroline was momentarily overwhelmed. Caver clapped her on the back, a broad grin on his face. Well-deserved, Caroline. You've made us all look good today. Even Zagar seemed grudgingly impressed, nodding his approval from a distance. Caroline smiled, her earlier anxieties fading away. This recognition affirmed that her instincts had been right, that her actions, though risky, were justified. As the clapping subsided, the overseer concluded, let this day be a reminder to all of us of the importance of flexibility, courage, and collaboration. These qualities will define the future leaders of our galaxy. The students began to disperse, talking excitedly among themselves about the day's events and the overseer's announcement. Caroline lingered in the atrium, absorbing the moment. The crystal pillar continued to glow softly in the background, a symbol of the dynamic and interconnected community she was now officially a part of. Caver approached her again, his expression serious. Caroline, what you've done today changes how we'll handle crises in the future. You've set a new precedent, not just for humans, but for all species here. Caroline nodded, understanding the weight of her actions. I hope it's the start of something good, Caver. I really do. As the atrium cleared and the holographic displays dimmed, Caroline knew that her journey at the Galactic Academy was just beginning. With the Chancellor's Medal, her future was bright and her mission clear, to bridge worlds and foster understanding across the galaxy. Her last glance was toward the Overseer, whose shimmering form gave one final nod of approval before fading away. With a deep breath, Caroline turned to join her peers, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead, confident in her ability to face them. We must continually challenge our assumptions and be ready to adapt to new situations, regardless of preconceived notions or existing protocols. Caroline, your initiative has inspired both your peers and the faculty here. Caroline listened, her heart still racing from the announcement, but now also filled with a deep sense of responsibility. Thank you, Overseer. I hope my actions today will help us think differently about problem solving in the future. The Overseer nodded, his form shimmering slightly as he turned to address the entire assembly. Let this day remind us all of the importance of embracing different perspectives and the strength that comes from diversity. The challenges we face in this galaxy are vast and varied, and it will take all of our combined efforts across species and systems to meet them effectively. The students around Caroline nodded, their expressions reflective and thoughtful. Even those from species known for their reticence seemed moved by the Overseer's words and Caroline's example. As the gathering began to disperse, many students approached Caroline, extending gestures of friendship or curiosity about Earth and her experiences. She answered questions, shared laughs, and felt a burgeoning sense of community that had been absent when she first arrived at the academy. Caver stayed by her side, his presence a comforting constant. You know, Caroline, you've started something big today. How does it feel to be a trailblazer? Caroline looked around at the diverse faces, some still unfamiliar but now open and friendly. It's a bit overwhelming, but mostly it feels right. Like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Her gaze settled on the pulsing blue light of the central crystal pillar, a beacon in the bustling atrium. It seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat, a steady rhythm that resonated with the newfound harmony around her. This isn't just about winning a test or proving a point, Caroline reflected. It's about showing that no matter where we come from, we have something valuable to contribute. That's the real power of diversity and cooperation. Caver nodded, his eyes bright. Well said, Caroline. And who knows, this might just be the beginning. With your skills and vision, there's no telling what you could lead us to achieve next. Caroline smiled, feeling the weight of possibilities ahead. Whatever comes, I think we're ready to face it together. Let's see what the future holds. As the lights of the atrium dimmed, signaling the end of the day's events, Caroline felt a profound connection to everyone at the academy. They had shared a moment of true understanding, transcending species and backgrounds to unite in a common goal. And for Caroline, it was a defining moment, a confirmation that her journey among the stars was only just beginning. Caroline's walk through the campus under the starlit sky was both a literal and metaphorical journey into a broader universe of opportunities and challenges. Each step seemed to echo with the potential of what was yet to come, both for her and for the Galactic Academy. The experience had transformed her from a curious outsider into a respected contributor, one whose insights were now valued and sought after. As she continued along the path, her thoughts turned to the future. The Academy offered a multitude of advanced courses and projects, many of which would benefit from her unique perspective and newfound respect among her peers. There were research initiatives that aimed to harness the natural abilities of different species for environmental recovery projects, engineering challenges that sought to blend technology from across the galaxy, and diplomatic missions that required a keen understanding of interspecies relations. The possibilities were nearly overwhelming, but Caroline felt ready. She had proven herself capable of more than she had ever imagined, and the future was a landscape ripe for exploration. Her commitment to bridging cultural and species divides was more than just an academic pursuit. It was a personal mission, driven by a deep-seated belief in the unity and potential of diverse beings working together. Caver's presence beside her was a reminder of the friendships she had forged. "You're thinking about what's next, aren't you?" he observed, his voice pulling her from her reverie. Caroline nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the Academy's towers met the starry sky. "Yes, there's so much to do, so many paths to explore. Today has opened doors I didn't even know existed, and you'll walk through them all," Caver said with a confident chuckle. "You have a knack for opening doors, Caroline. Just remember, you've got friends here when you need them." "Thanks, Caver. That means a lot," Caroline replied, her voice tinged with gratitude. Their friendship was a testament to the changes she had undergone and the bridges she had built. Their path took them past the central library, a beacon of knowledge with its illuminated facade casting a soft glow on the path. Caroline paused, looking at it. Tomorrow, I start here. There's a lot I need to learn if I'm going to contribute the way I want to. That's the spirit, Caver agreed, his bright eyes reflecting the light from the library. And who knows, maybe one day, it'll be your teachings that light up these halls. Caroline smiled, the image of that future bringing a warm glow to her heart. As they resumed walking, the crisp night air filled with the sounds of distant conversations and the gentle rustling of leaves in the gentle wind. Yes, this was just the beginning for Caroline White. With each step, she was not just walking through the Galactic Academy, she was moving towards a future where she could make a real difference. A future where the lessons learned during a crisis would illuminate the way for new generations of students at the Academy and, perhaps, across the galaxy. The stars seemed to agree, twinkling brightly above, guiding her on her journey into tomorrow.